that comes in with about a 57-year-old, 58-year-old guy, came into one of the hospitals here in India.
Okay. हम जो बात करेंगे वो एक इंसान की है जो 57 इयर्स ओल्ड है और उसको स्ट्रोक आया है और वो हॉस्पिटल में आया है इंडिया में.
And this is an interesting case. This is an
और
interesting case because his wife was with him and he was lifting up his arm.
ये एक बहुत ही आश्चर्य, बहुत ही चौंकाने वाला एक केस है, बहुत ही अच्छा केस है कि इसमें जो उनकी वाइफ है उनके साथ है और वो अपना हाथ जो है वो ऐसे ऊपर उठा रही है.
So at around 6 p.m., the patient came in. It was around 9 p.m. that I saw the patient. At around 6 p.m., the patient came in. And at 9 p.m., he raised his arm in the air and fell to the ground.
और तो 6 बजे जो है वो पेशेंट जो था वो हॉस्पिटल आया, उन्होंने डॉक्टर को दिखाया और 9 बजे जो था उसका हाथ उस एकदम से यूं हुआ और वो नीचे एकदम से गिर गया.
So it was 3 hours between the time that he came in at 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. But his wife said something is seriously wrong with him. So they did a CT scan of his head.
तो 3 घंटे हो गए थे उस पेशेंट को स्ट्रोक लगे, क्योंकि 6 बजे लगा और 9 बजे आया, और इस बीच में बहुत कुछ गड़बड़ हो गई थी. उसकी वाइफ ने बताया कि उन्होंने उसका इलाज कराया, कुछ कराया, उसको ट्रीटमेंट कराया.
But they didn't get the test that they wanted. At 9 o'clock p.m., they consulted me, and I asked them to immediately get a CT angio head and neck on top of the actual CT.
तो उनको 3 घंटे में कुछ सॉल्यूशन नहीं मिला, तो फिर उन्होंने डॉक्टर साहब से बात करी और फिर डॉक्टर ने उनको एडवाइस करा कि वो.
And we found again the same finding that we found in the other case that we spoke about today. The same finding, but now this is a male, and the 57-year-old has occlusion, but not in the vertebral arteries. He actually has it in a basilar artery.
तो हम एक और केस बात करेंगे. उसी समय वो केस आया था जिसमें एक आदमी था जिसकी एज थी 57. तो पर उसको जो जो दिक्कत थी वो वर्टिबल आर्टरीज में थी.
But this problem is in the actual basilar artery. When you have those two that come up, this basilar artery is actually made, and so there's a triangle, and then there's a straight line. So this artery comes up like this and goes up.
तो जो एक्चुअल जो प्रॉब्लम थी वो उस आर्टरीज में थी जो ऐसे आती है और यूं स्ट्रेट ऊपर जाता है. इस पोर्शन में उसको प्रॉब्लम थी.
So, but this person wasn't having any of the symptoms that you would naturally think. But all of a sudden, at 9 p.m., when they consulted us, just maybe a few minutes before then, he just lifted up his arm up and then he dropped to the ground. And that's when they called neurology again, because they said, look, the CT scan is negative. This is most likely not a neurological problem.
उसको इतनी कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी, पर वो ऑल ऑफ अ सडन उसके साथ ऐसा हुआ कि 9 बजे के आसपास जब उसको सीटी स्कैन कराया तो वो नेगेटिव निकला और वो फॉल डाउन हो गया.
I was really not expecting much to be on this exam, but it came back to be a basilar artery occlusion at the tip of the basilar.
हम एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे कि इसमें काफी कुछ इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं, पर वो जो था वो बेसलर आर्टरीज के टिप पर, टॉप पे था, जो उनको जो सिम्टम आ रहा था.
Right. So it's quite an amazing case. They went in, they took it. So there's two questions. Number one is, should he get that medicine or should he not get that medicine? The medicine, the blood thinning medicine that you give within 4.5 hours, should he get it or not?
दो क्वेश्चन है यहाँ पर कि उसमें पहला क्वेश्चन ये है कि क्या हमें उस पेशेंट को जो मेडिसिन देनी चाहिए कि नहीं देनी चाहिए, क्योंकि उसको 4 घंटे हो गए थे.
Right. And so we'll talk about that more a little bit later, because then that talks about more of the case. But then in the end, he did get a thrombectomy, which means he got a wire that went up to the back of his brain and they pulled it out.
Can you repeat again, sir?
They put a wire through his leg and then they pulled it out. They retrieved the clot.
उसने फिर उन्होंने जो वायर था वो उनके लेग के यहाँ से पुट करा लगा और वो रिट्रीव करा कोशिश करा क्लॉट को निकालने की।
हाँ, brain. क्योंकि हम brain को we don't open the brain. We don't open up the brain first. What we do is we send a wire up, which goes all the way through the arteries in the chest, and then goes up to the brain, and then you pull it out.
तो हम ब्रेन को ऐसे डायरेक्टली ऑपरेट नहीं करते पर हम आर्टरीज के थ्रू वायर भेजते हैं और वो उस पोर्शन पे जाकर उसको खींचते हैं।
Yeah. So that was the next thing that actually took place, and it was an interesting case because it was, number one, it wasn't really expected. Wasn't really expecting this. Number two, it shows that one of the learning points here is that between the CT and the CT angio, head and neck, it is absolutely so important. It's so important to get directly to that scan and make sure it doesn't take too long to read that scan, because that time is brain. So you have to make sure that that's there. The third thing is that, yes, in this case, medicine probably should be given if it meets all the contraindication criteria, that there's no major contraindication to this.
सीटी स्कैन करने के बाद अगर हमें ये लगता है कि ज़्यादा खराब नहीं है हालत तो हम उसको मेडिसिन देने के बारे में सोच सकते हैं।
Yeah, and then in addition to that, the CT scan should be read quickly. Are some of the take-home points from this?
और सबसे जरूरी बात यह है कि सीटी स्कैन जो है वो टाइम पर होना बहुत जरूरी है, जल्द से जल्द।
And you know what's the cause of this? How does this stroke happen? So this stroke happens from, sometimes it can happen from the heart, where the heart has a problem where the heart doesn't beat regularly.
तो ये जो प्रॉब्लम है ये क्यों आती है, कैसे आती है? ये शुरू होती है अपने जो हार्ट है, दिल से। कभी कभी जो हमारा दिल जो होता है वो धड़कना प्रॉपरली नहीं धड़क पाता, ठीक तरीके से नहीं धड़क पाता, इसीलिए ये प्रॉब्लम आती है।
So एक clot हो सकता है कि there's possibly a clot that takes place in the heart that sends it directly up. So that was one of my concerns, is it possible that the heart can actually send this up? And that's one place that it can come from. So you have to check the heart. You have to see if there was actually something that took place in the neck that actually dislodged something. Go ahead.
तो हमें ये देखना चाहिए कि सबसे पहले ये जो चीज आती है ये हो सकता है हमारे हार्ट में ही, हार्ट में पहले चेक करना पड़ेगा कि, और फिर हमें नेक में जाना पड़ेगा, फिर हम हेड पे देख सकते हैं कि भाई ये जो बढ़ रही है बीमारी है किस वजह से बढ़ रही है।
Right. Okay, so that's this case. And what we'll do is we'll stop live streaming now. We'll talk a little bit more about the case. If you want to learn more about the actual process of this case, you can learn more in our course that's listed below, and go ahead and join our course. Of course, there's our book, Meditate or Die, Knee Tie to Get High. We recommend this to all of our patients.
अगर आप लोगों को और इसके बारे में जानना है तो हमने लिंक दिया है यहाँ पर, इस एक बुक है मेडिटेट और डाई नी टाई टू गेट हाई। इस बुक को आप पढ़ें, इससे आपको काफ़ी नॉलेज मिलेगी और आपको आइडिया मिलेगा कि इसका इलाज और अच्छे से कैसे हो सकता है।
So there's 100 million smokers in India.
अभी 100 मिलियन स्मोकर्स हैं इंडिया में, भारत में।
So that's a lot of smokers in India. So this male was a smoker.
और बहुत सारे स्मोकर्स हैं, नशेड़ी लोग हैं भारत में। तो वो जो मेल जो था, जो आया था वहाँ पे, वो स्मोकर था, वो सिगरेट का नशा था, उसको नशा करता था सिगरेट का।
And in addition to that, he has asthma.
और उसके साथ साथ उसको अस्थमा भी था।
So asthma is, we know from our previous videos, we know that asthma can be and is listed as a possible risk factor for irregular heartbeat in some papers.
पुराने उसके जो पेपर्स थे हमने चेक किया, हमें पता लगा कि उसको अस्थमा था और अस्थमा की वजह से उसके हार्ट में प्रॉब्लम हुई शुरू, और वो प्रॉब्लम धीरे धीरे बढ़ते हुए उसके सिर तक चली गई।
Yeah. So it's a really interesting thought process. So we'll stop the video now and the live stream, and then the rest